Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Phillips, and I'm the program director here at Tech Connects, and we're a not-for-profit association currently in our 42nd year of operation. And as an association, we're focused on being a support community for businesses within the tech industry. Tech Connects is a leader in peer-to-peer programming, running a series of peer groups every month with a strong focus on personal, professional, and business growth. And our programs provide an excellent venue for education, knowledge transfer, and an opportunity to connect with peers and potential clients and partners. So our sessions are where people can connect with other business leaders, share best practices and insights, learn from others, and grow your business. So thank you for joining us today. This is our second in our Future of Tech series, where we will explore the exciting and rapidly evolving landscape of technology, the latest trends, innovations, and predictions shaping the future of technology, and it's jointly hosted with the City of Vaughan. And thank you very much to Faria Wally, who's my counterpart at the City of Vaughan, for helping me coordinate this series here. Our next session and the last in the series will be taking place on Tuesday, December the 5th from 1 to 2. Same thing online. You can find that on our website, and it's on the future of mobility and transportation. This kind of will lead into that because I think there's some things that also happen here. We're also having an in-person social on Thursday, November 23rd from 5 to 7. It's a big bowling extravaganza, and it's in person. So if you're able to join us, we would love to see you. And you have to sign up by November 19th because we have a cutoff. I have to give the numbers and I can't add to it. If you're not a TechNX member, you can reach out to myself or Ryan Ellis, who's also on the call, and join us for a complimentary peer group. With that, let's kick some things off here. So myself, I was trying to figure out what is a smart city. If you Google it, you're going to get a variety of definitions, and it's a whole broad range of definitions here as well. But what I gathered, they all seem to have a bit of a common theme. So a smart city is a city that uses information and communication technology and data collection to enhance and improve the quality of life for its residents and businesses. Through the utilization of data and ICT, smart city initiatives aim to deliver more efficient services to residents, such as transportation, healthcare, energy, education, public safety, and much more, as well as foster collaboration among various stakeholders. So the success of a smart city relies on the relationship between both the public and private sectors, bringing together expertise and resources from every party. And one of the things, and I know Jeff will mention this, but he sent me, graciously sent me a video that showcases various use cases and behind the scene efforts driving York Region's leadership in smart city initiatives. And it includes applications, emergency management, wastewater infrastructure, open data, and much more. So when you're looking at a smart city, it ultimately comes down to how the technology is used over how much technology is available. So how do we make our cities how do we make our cities smarter and more livable? Well, today we have Jeff Lamb, who's the Director of Planning Systems at Esri Canada, Pirathayini Srikantha, who's the Assistant Professor at York University, and Kitty Young, who's a Smart City Project Manager at the City of Vaughan. They will share their perspectives and expertise on what is happening, what are some challenges or things to think about, and what is making it possible. And one of the things we'll also do is we're going to go through a few questions, but we definitely want to open the floor up and have you ask any questions. So feel free to either raise your hand, put something in the chat, come off mute, and we can address them. So with that, we're going to kick some things off here. So I'll start with Jeff and then go through. What is your perspective on what makes a good city?
Great. Okay, well, I'm on the hot seat first up. So before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you, Kelly, for the opportunity to speak, and to my fellow colleagues. I really enjoyed getting to know you leading up to this. We have some great things to talk about today. And I think what I want to say right off the bat is, I don't have all of the answers, and I think this is just a good conversation to have today. So please feel free to stop us anytime and open it up. But I'll certainly give my perspective on the answer here. So I've been in government and private and public sector for over 25 years. My focus is on maps. I love all things maps and what might GIS, and I'll get into that later on. I was born into a family that had strong roots in municipal government. So to the answer to this question, I tend to look at it through sort of three lenses, right? So what is my perspective on what makes a good city? Well, I grew up in what is now called the city of Pickering. It was the town of Pickering at the time. And for me, I had a real strong sense of community. The fact that I was part of a community that I cared about. I loved having the name City of Pickering on my soccer jersey as a kid growing up. To me, that's home for me. But as I got a little older and wiser and earned some of these gray hairs, I realized that, good cities are made up of equal representation. So it's important that people vote and that there's a good representation at mayor and council or who are implementing policies. And then finally, and we're going to hear from my other colleagues here, good governance, the ability to bring ideas and land them into an organization and to sustain them over time and to have a city manager and commissioners who can really roll out plans that help us come back to what we really need is our community to have a sense of community. So that is my high level answer. It's feeling like you belong, making sure the community is being led in the way that matches our values, and good governance.
Excellent. No, it's a great answer there, Jeff. And I think it's important for everybody to have a sense of community, regardless of what you're in. So I think that's a really good answer. Kitty, from a planning you come at things from a planning perspective. So it's a totally different vision than what Jeff has. So from your perspective, what makes a good city?
Thanks, Kelly, and I also want to thank you for inviting me to join this panel this afternoon. I do recognize some names are on today's attendees, so I'm glad we can reconnect, and some new faces as well too. So Kelly, I do work at the City of Vaughan and in our economic development team. But maybe I can share some City of Vaughan specific context to kind of set some background as well too. We are a city that's in transition, meaning that we're really moving from the suburban to the urban city. As one of the fastest growing city, we're at around 340,000 people. In fact, we've been growing faster than our neighbor cities in Markham and Richmond Hill. We do a lot of forecasting here in Vaughan, and we see that over the next 30 years, we're going to be adding an additional around 227,000 people, which really brings us to a total of close to 570,000 people. And as a city, that's a lot of growth coming. So what that really means for us is that we really have to be strategic and thoughtful as we plan for all this new growth, and really align our city building with what our residents and businesses value the most. So in Vaughan, we asked the big question to our community. We asked, what will communities in the future look like? To give us a really good idea of what our residents want in their city. So very similar to what Jeff has mentioned, a big major theme is a concept called complete communities, which is building a mix of homes, jobs, schools, recreation centers, and design a very strong focus of designing sustainable places that prioritize people, and as Jeff mentioned, that build that same sense of community. So whether you're living alone, or if you have a young family, or even if you're an older adult, we want our residents to have that place that's easily accessible, that can also tap into different opportunities as well too. So maybe that's on a high level thinking, as we plan and build our city. How we're doing that, I think it's going to be a big impact. We've also heard, a lot from the transportation side as well too. We know in Vaughan that traffic and congestion is top of mind for our residents. Majority of people right now do currently drive to places in Vaughan. in fact, I drive to work, and I live in Toronto. It's just not as easy of a choice right now to get to and from places in Vaughan. So we're looking into investing infrastructure and building infrastructure that really, what we call, empowers a choice, so that you can have options to move around the city. And I bring this up because there's a big project that we're launching that really relates into the mobility and how to really enhance the movement of people and the goods movement in Vaughan. So maybe I'll just pause there and pass it over back to you.
Excellent. Kitty, you make an excellent point about the fact that you see Vaughan growing. And I know we have some other towns and cities on here as well, and they're seeing a large growth for themselves too. So what is interesting is when I was looking things up, because Smart Cities sort of said that's what they're targeting, is this huge growth in population within the city, and how do they combat some of those things? One of the stats that I ended up seeing was that by 2030, they're saying that many cities, the larger cities, are going to have a population of more than 10 million people within them. And then by 2050, up to 70% of the world's population is expected to live in cities. So they're expected to be actually moving closer into the city. So I think that is something to keep top of mind here. So Pirathayini, from your perspective, you come at this from a research side of things, and you see a lot of the challenges or some of the things that have to really be thought through. So what would you say makes a good city?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. So really, I think many of the points have been mentioned by my colleagues already, but let me just try to add several other new points. So from my view, I think it's really the intelligent use of technology and space to allow for connectivity amongst residents, so that we can live as a single fabric, and the use of technology for the benefit of the society while being mindful of the inherent challenges. So examples are like, we can use technology to help with transportation, connectivity amongst consumers and residents to facilitate better transportation, reduce the traffic and things like that, increase efficiency and sustainability. So those are some examples. And also accessibility to various services that are critical, like healthcare and education. So
okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you. There's so many different perspectives to look at when we go through this. So Kitty, I'm going to turn this question over to you. So what are some examples of how you have implemented smart city technologies?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And thanks for asking me this question, because it really gives me the opportunity to share some really exciting and innovative projects that some of my colleagues citywide are doing. So, and a lot of our projects, and we're very fortunate to have won a couple of awards. So I'll share some of these highlights, but we don't have enough time to cover them all. So to make it very kind of concrete and relatable to the group, in City of Vaughan and all cities in general, we own a lot of different what we call assets. So for example, we own all the city streetlights in Vaughan. So we've undertaken a massive project to convert all of our old streetlight into smart LED streetlights. And when we did it for a couple of reasons, one, yes, there's a big cost savings to it. But two, I've learned that, operating streetlights actually take up 20% of the city's overall consumption. So this is something that we want to start, lowering our consumption by converting into LED streetlights. And, beyond just converting just the streetlight itself, we also added a smart control system that really allows us to remotely monitor and control our streetlight furniture. So think about the maintenance perspective that has enhanced. Think about, we don't need our residents to now call and tell us that, certain streetlights are off. There's a lot of operational efficiencies that just by doing this project has also saved us money, better for the environment, and greatly improve our staff's time, that they don't need to drive around to see which lights are on, and gives us that infrastructure to really kind of enhance our smart city infrastructure. So think about in the future, we could add all types of different sensors on top of that, because it is going to be citywide already. This has been implemented. Another couple projects I'm really proud to share is through our public works team. They're a true champion in our smart city development here in Vaughan as well too. We've implemented something called the Smart Cities Road Patrol Solution, which is installing a hardware and software on the city vehicles that we typically drive around for maintenance. And what's really unique about that is that it automatically helps us detect potholes, cracks on the road, and any graffitis. And what it does is automatically takes all of these defects and creates work orders for us automatically. And what this helps with our public works team is that we don't have to manually do this anymore. This is how we used to do it. We used to manually drive around, jot down where these deficiencies are, and then create manual work orders. So this allows us to automate some things, and also allows our colleagues and workers to really focus on driving instead. We've also started dabbling into AI as well too, and in particular in our winter maintenance, to better allocate our resources and help reduce the salt usage during winter. I'm not sure if the attendees know, but I didn't know this, but in Vaughan, we have different microclimates. So because we have different microclimates, different parts of Vaughan may need salt at different times when it's a winter event. So we use sensors and this AI tool to take all these factors into account. So whether it's the weather model, traffic volumes, the road temperature, the moistures, any conditions, to come up with a recommendation to better treat our city roads and sidewalks. So some areas may not need as much salt, or some areas may need more salt. And ultimately, it's helping us to apply the right salt at the right time, in the right amount, in the right place. And this has helped us reduce the salt usage. And also, there's a big cost component into this as well, too. And I think what's new this year, and which is what I'm very excited to share with this team about, is that we're launching a new project called a Mobility Demonstration Zone. You may have heard of this in a couple of our news release. What this is that we're opening up the city of Vaughan as a test bed for smart mobility innovation. And this would come up from a lot of conversations with entrepreneurs, a lot of conversations with startups that, hey, I want to work with the city, but I can't because you have very strict procurement policies, or people aren't answering, or you're not able to tap into the right person in government, in municipal government. And we've heard that a lot from the entrepreneurs and startups, that they have really great ideas and solutions that can help really tackle some of our transportation challenges. So what we've done is we designed a program that, at the end, that is open, fair, and a framework and process that allows us to showcase and demonstrate these technologies. And I'm happy to share more about this in later in the sessions today. But what's really exciting for us is that we're also partnering with the city of Markham, and we also got some funding from the province to help run some of these innovative projects, smart city projects as well.
Thank you, Kitty. There's a lot here. I know you talk about some of the costs that are happening up front, but in the end, this is where, there's a big focus on cost efficiency going forward, and even making things a little easier for residents to get around, businesses to stay open, et cetera, and so forth. So, Pirathayini, from your perspective, what are the limitations and challenges of the current infrastructure, and how can it be made easier for us to put things into action?
Thank you, Kelly. So the current infrastructure is a combination of older and newer components, right? We're developing, we're expanding the city. So we have to be equipped to deal with these challenges that are imposed by this unique combination. So just to give you a highlight of a few examples, so physical challenges include the electrical infrastructure. So we know that we're moving away from natural gas to electrification of heating and cooling in homes, in buildings. And also we're seeing significant amount of electrification in the transportation sector. So electric buses, everything is becoming electrified, quote unquote. And also we have a significant integration of renewables that is encouraged, and individuals like to, have renewables in their houses to be more independent. But these also pose different type of challenges that include uncertainties, lack of predictability, and things like that. So what we are seeing is a significant load on our electrical infrastructure, and there's certainly more uncertainties right now that we have to deal with. The other challenge is the connectivity. So we're seeing significant connectivity amongst people, individual appliances, cars, you name it. We have, everything's connected right now. While that's very encouraging and it does allow for significant automation and making things more efficient, we have to deal with cybersecurity issues that are inherent. Also data management and privacy, which is a significant consideration right now, because individuals, how they own the data, how it's used, all of that is very important. And also, so these are some challenges that I can think of right now. So the second part to your question is, how can we make it more easier to put things into action? So in my view, I think we have to take an interdisciplinary approach that considers all aspects of the society, technological innovations, connectivity, security, privacy, all of that has to come together. So we need automation to increase resiliency, like my colleague mentioned right now. So there's some automation going on for maintenance. So that's one example. So automation to increase resilience in our infrastructure, and also intelligence to overcome inherent challenges. But there are issues that we have to address while integrating these new and upcoming innovations. So it's pretty short, but this is what I have to say.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're just talking about kind of the security side of things, because I think that's a very hot topic on how all of these smart cities and all of this, wonderful technology and the way that things are being used. But there's definitely a security component of it that we have to think of. And I know we have a lot of smart technology here within my house. So if one thing goes, everything seems to be going. Jeff, you look at a lot of different things, and you do a lot of the planning, you work with a lot of cities, municipalities. How does the location of things help enable a smart city?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Well, I want to start by telling a story. It's a story I love. And a few years ago in London, England, there was a butcher. And the butcher, he had owned that butchering shop for many years, and he was starting to get decreased traffic. And he was a little bit off the beaten path. More people were going to the big box stores, and he was starting to lose revenue and income coming into his business. And his son came in to start taking over the next generation. And one of the things his son did is he started out by putting sensors at the door, and tracking when people walked by. And what he started to realize is he looked at the data and started to see patterns in that data. So then he connected to the city's open data site and started to pull in location information, when the bus routes were, demographic information of who lives and works in that area. And this gentleman, working with his father, because his father had years of understanding of the industry, he was able to digitalize his business using sensors and location data. And by doing that, he went out and started polling people. They changed the menu, they changed the arrangement of the store, they put a little cafe out front, but all by using information that exists at a location. And that is the power of location in a smart city, is everything happens somewhere, right? There is no transaction in a municipality that doesn't occur at a location. So if you think of whichever city you're in, I know I see some of my friends in here from Oakville and from York Region, and I see my colleague on here from Toronto. You all can visualize right now an intersection in your community, whether it's the little town of Huntsville or right in downtown Toronto. I want you to think about that intersection for a second, okay? And all of the transactions that are occurring in any given location, right? So, and all of the data that's required for the road network to be properly managed and maintained, for the water to flow through the pipes and turn on properly, for the people wearing sensors. This is all has, what we care about the most is X, Y, and Z location to data. So how does that enable a smart city? Well, we at Esri Canada, which is my employer, we really are the operating system for all things location. So all of the examples that Kitty and Pirathayini have brought up are tied to location. And what's really amazing now with smart city technology is the technology is taken care of. A lot of municipalities own a lot of the tech or can find ways to buy it. It's leveraging the assets you have in your people to be able to put that technology to work. We offer you, as in our organization, amazing abilities to do great things, and predict, what's happened in the past, what's going to happen right now, and what's happening in the future. So where we see the future of location is in the people you have and the literacy in your organization to be able to leverage the tool that's sitting in your toolbox. So that's a short answer. I mean, I could talk for a long time about location. I get very passionate about it. But I want everyone on this call to know, whether you're inside government or outside government, there are tools you can use right now that can help you leverage the power of data that happens at a location. Message me. I'm happy to help. Yeah.
Jeff, that's a great story and a really good use of data and just how to bring things together. I think that's very critical. Sometimes when stores just go into an area and they have to think of the people that are coming through and the traffic that's going by. And I think that's a great example of it. So I do like that. One of the things I want to ask all of you here is, what do you see coming down the pipeline to help make a smart city smart and innovative? So Kitty, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, Kelly. I'm trying to think what angle we should take this question, because smart city, I think, as you mentioned, there's so many different aspects from it, right? Like from anything that's within a city to livability of it. Maybe I'll focus on the mobility side, because I think we just launched a program for demonstrations and living lab and a test bed. Maybe that will give the group a really good idea of what kind of solutions that we're really seeing down the pipeline. And I work very, very closely with our transportation planning team, who does long range planning for the city for transportation initiatives. And we start bucketing what types of innovations that we're expecting to see down the pipeline. We are in a very early stage, I would say, in some of implementing innovative transportation solutions. Some major theme area is that we want to start looking at how do we create resilient transportation infrastructure. So this could include things like materials or construction methods for pavement, or things that we can maximize value from transportation infrastructure. We do see a lot of innovation and technology integration in the EV charging area, as my colleague mentioned. Anything about signage and wayfinding. We see a lot of use cases on smart signals and connected infrastructure, or innovation that can help really move the goods movement in Vaughan. We do have a large manufacturing sector here in Vaughan that produces a lot of goods. And there's a big industry in the transportation industry that we see this opportunity for innovation of using automated delivery trucks or sidewalks or roadways to move the goods in Vaughan as well too. We tapped in, we're looking into share mobility opportunity. So beyond e-bikes and e-scooters, are there any other innovations that we can test and pilot? We do recognize that there is a gap in what we call first and last mile transit, where getting people to the final destination from the transit stop could be very long sometimes. So is there any opportunities that we can help enhance that area so that people do not have to, choose to drive their private vehicles from point A to point B? And then we also looked at, ways that we can, collect and leverage data as well too. As a city, we're really moving towards a data-driven decision-making model where we want to take a look at, if traffic is an issue, let's start collecting traffic data, let's start analyzing it, and let's change some behaviors that we would typically do in a city. So I think that's really, the major themes is that, how are there ways that we can collect more data? How can ways that we can crunch data so that we can get the information that we need to really ultimately change, whether it's a resident's behavior or a city's operations on our side. But maybe that gives you some highlight, at least from the mobility demonstration zone, what types of technologies that we would like to see in Vaughan and test out, and for the next couple of years.
Changing the behavior patterns, I think, is an interesting way of looking at things and being able to use some of that data. And that ties even back to Jeff's story of the butcher and just looking at behavior patterns of things. Pirathayini, how about yourself? What do you see coming down the pipeline to help make a smart city smart and innovative?
Right. So just to reiterate, smart cities could mean shorter commutes, lower crimes, right? More efficient healthcare, lower carbon emissions. So all of that can be achieved by empowering individuals and also connecting everybody. So I think Internet of Things and artificial intelligence and other, data gathering technologies can be used, emerging technologies can be used to help the society or the city run efficiently and in an integrated fashion. So just to give you, I just found a reference, McKinsey's Global Institute mentions that smart cities can improve essential quality of life by 10 to 30%. So that's the goal, I think, ultimately. And these new emerging technologies, we don't want to invent things from scratch, but use what's there efficiently and very, in a way that, is connects and brings things together in the society. So that's what I have to say.
Great. Jeff, yourself, and I know you've got a couple of different examples. We were talking about some things before, but what do you see maybe coming down the pipeline?
Well, I'm an eternal optimist, so I see a world of amazing things. I like to think first that we have the opportunity to break down barriers now and have people collaborating and creating community together. I think up until now, there's a disconnect between how government operates and how the private sector operates. And it's really playing itself out in the housing affordability crisis we have right now in this country, or the housing crisis. So, I like to think that there are ways that we can have residents engaged in the planning process through more digital tools, the place-based, location-based tools where people can see what's happening in their backyard, can actually not be scared of it, but can visualize it, can put on, and this is a real thing that's happening potentially in Oakville, and maybe Lena wants to talk about that later, is putting on virtual reality glasses and actually seeing development that's going to come, and actually sitting in your house and looking out the window and go, oh, that's what it might look like. And I think there's just too much, it's part of our society now. There's us versus them. There's these divisions that need to be broken down. And I see smart cities, under the headline of smart cities, that technology of collaborating, of getting people to see the other person's side of the story would really help. And especially, and go one level deeper in the planning and development process right now. Really in my mind, and I don't mean to sort of break it down to a very simple statement, but a lot of it has to deal with unmapped customer journeys, right? Because the journey of the customer is really broken, right? So I think we can bring in tools like AI chatbots to help people, like City of Kelowna are doing right now. It's fantastic what they're doing with AI, where a resident can be at home and just type in a question of, I want to build this. And no city staff has to do anything. They get the answers, and it's connected right to their location Esri-based GIS, and it brings them right to it. I mean, these things are within our grasp, right? So long answer, but I just want to say that what I'm really passionate about the future of smart technology is about its ability to get everyone at the table. And I think we're missing that in our society since the pandemic. So
Jeff, I like how you brought that back together, though, where it's the collaboration among all the stakeholders involved, and it's trying to make both sides, or
yeah.
every side, maybe there's not just two, a lot easier for everybody.
And to see each other's perspective. You know,
yeah,
we live in our echo chambers, right? And I think we
yeah,
have to get out of that.
yeah, no, and I think that's a wonderful example there. So when it comes to our cities of the future, what do you think our cities will look like, and what are you maybe most excited about? So Pirathayini, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So this is a very interesting question because it's, it's what we wish to have, right? in a future city. So maybe we can start with an example that we have at Vaughan. So just looking at the Cortellucci Hospital, just as an example, how modern and technologically advanced and connected that building is, and medical records are completely connected. Physicians, nurses, patients all have, seamless access to data, medical records, prescription, everything is highly automated. So that's a fine example of, how advanced technologies can be used to enable efficiency, in a setting like healthcare. And what I'd like to see is to extrapolate that, to all aspects of the city, like education, transportation, electricity, things like that. So can we use that model? And, I'd like to see a seamlessly connected city in the future where everything's efficient and well connected. So that's, I think, what I would like to see in a future city.
I think you brought up a great example too about the healthcare side of things and just being able to simplify it. And I think a lot of that comes back again to the cost savings. I can think of stories where I've had to take a child somewhere and you go to Dr. A and they tell you, okay, you have to get an MRI or X-ray. And then you go to Dr. B and they tell you, oh, you've got to do that. And you're saying, but I just got it done yesterday. Yes, but I need my own. And then you go to the next one and you think it's that efficiency of how you can connect things together. So I do like that. And I think being able to tie that into every aspect would be really good. Kitty, how about yourself? When it comes to cities of the future, what do you think they're going to look like, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I think this question it's a very good one. Because I think as cities start to transition, and most cities are starting to transition into an urban environment, on the back end, I think a lot of cities are also updating all of their legacy system as well too, right? So this kind of provides this opportunity to enable what we call smart city integrations. And I think that, as city staff, we also recognize that we cannot do it all. We just don't have that in-house expertise. We don't have the resources to run the entire smart city by ourselves. So I think I really echo Jeff's comment about partnership, right? And to work with different stakeholders to really enhance the city's operations and quality of life. So I'm very excited that, we are working with Esri, we are working with York University, right, to look at, how do an academic and a city can work together to really solve some of these potential issues. We work very close with Esri already in Vaughan, and looking at all these different types of projects that we can help in development application side. Personally, I think as these really great projects are coming online, I'm actually very excited about some placemaking initiatives. So really kind of bouncing off Jeff's initial comment about the sense of place. So how do we use technology to enhance that sense of place? And there's a lot of examples in other cities that they have done, from, can we look at, using existing technology like a QR code that you can scan and you can talk to street furniture, right? To learn more about them. I thought that was very interesting. to having regular two-way communications with our residents, right? You know, at the park, can we look at furniture that can be for all 4 seasons? Any activities that can really bring people together. I think that's where we're starting to really see that demand and the ask for it. That, you know, if we're such a diverse community, and we're very proud of it, how can we bring use technology to bring people together? And I think that the technology exists, the innovation is there. I think we're at the right time to start looking at just beyond the standard, like technologies for operations, efficiencies, making things more efficient, but a big kind of sense of belonging, I think, can also be looked at from a city perspective too. So I'm very excited to look at, you know, some project in this area. And I'm very fortunate also that we've been directed by council to look at that as well too, right? Like what is something that is that's a little bit more unique that can really make Vaughan a little bit different in terms of a smart city. So we have the next couple of years to put together a business case to look at increasing the sense of belonging. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about any ideas that they have that's going to be actually doable for the next couple years. This is kind of like a project that's kind of, we haven't developed scope yet because we want to have more conversations with the community. So Kelly, I hope that kind of answers your question. What I'm personally very excited about.
Kitty, I think it's a great answer from the perspective of we're seeing our cities grow, you know, moving from towns now to cities, and there's so much growth. The population is growing, and it's still trying to make sure everybody has that sense of community. Everybody still feels part of where they are, and that's not lost. So I think it's a great answer. Jeff, how about yourself? So,
Well,
you know, what are you excited about?
Yeah. Well, you said talk to street furniture, and then I imagined a day where the furniture started talking back to us, and I was like, well, that might be going too far. But yeah, you know, there's so many things to say to this. And again, I think there's a world of technology out there, and there's so much smart stuff. We have to keep working with people who offer this innovation. And I think one of the things municipalities really should almost pat themselves on the back on is that they're starting to acknowledge that these things are achievable. It's not far off in the distance. It's here today and you can do it, right? Hasn't always been like that, right? And I really do credit that there are leaders of the future coming into government. I did leave government. I'm in the private sector now, but I'm a huge advocate of municipalities. And I do see a future where our leaders are data literate, are digital literate, are savvy, where you see policy being updated, not being sort of because it's the right thing to do, not because they had, you know, well-written business cases to do it, you know, and we're going to have to get on the back of things like climate change, housing crisis. These are existential issues. We can't not do this, right? So I think that, you know, it's time. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's start putting data where people's eyes are. They're not on the corporate website. And I'm sorry, I will say it, you know, where they're on their phones, right? So then we need to just stream everything we need to where people's eyes are so that they can make the best decisions possible to get around in our communities. And I think, again, you know, Esri Canada, I think we feel like we're wrapping up. We're here to help in that journey. We are the platform for that. So back to you, Kelly.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up. I have a question from Prasad in here, and he says many of the concepts discussed so far have been ideal. In your opinions, what are things you need to do in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months to drive goals for a smarter city? Anybody want to jump in with this first?
I think,
go ahead.
Yeah, I can kick it off. This is a question that's, you know, always top of mind. So from some strategy to action, right? Like what is the city of Vaughan going to be doing in the shorter term to really help drive our smart city goals? And our team thinks about this a lot. We know where we want to go, but, you know, how do we get there? We are fortunate that we've done a lot of community engagement during the last term of council with our smart city task force that have identified 8 high-level projects, our citywide for us to implement for the next 4 years. So we are going to be focusing a lot of efforts in the implementation stage of these 8 high-level projects. I can send you a list afterwards what those are, but these would include things like digital twin, things like the mobility demonstration zone, things like working closer with York University, as well as some accelerator incubator space, to really help move the needle of the smart city development here in Vaughan. But in addition to that, I think a big part of what I do at work is really try to break down some of the silos internally as well too. You know, how do we get departments that typically don't work together to start working together because they might be tackling the same issue, right? It could be, you know, putting everybody on the same platform, which is a big challenge at the city, right? Like, how do we, you know, consolidate all the data, right, so that we know what each other have? Because sometimes some departments don't talk to each other. So there are some, you know, project-related projects that we're tackling in the next 6 months to 12 months. And then there's also some corporate citywide internal, I would say, internal kind of procedures and processes that we want to also tackle as well internally.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in on this? So, you know, what are you seeing? What are things that need to be done the next, you know, 6 months to a year?
Yeah, maybe from our perspective, what I can tell you we are doing, and this is top of mind for our whole organization, is supporting the housing crisis, or not supporting the crisis, but supporting solving the crisis. So we're listening. We're out. We're listening to our customers. We're educating on the things that they have today that you can use. We're giving away like things that we've created to help you. We're creating sort of low-hanging fruit solutions. So the city of Vaughan is pioneering something really cool in their planning department around the concept of a community concierge. So the ability to map and walk people through the journey of planning, so you don't have to go through that frustrating process of going to the website and finding the accordion on page 6 to find the thing you need. So really applaud Vaughan in taking that leadership role with York. You know, over the next 12 months, we're hosting events and just doing knowledge gathering, making sure, as Lena just said in the comment here, they hosted an event in May. We're looking to do another one. And then as an organization, we're working across Canada to bring a new solution for planning and development to the market for our customers that will help, you know, with the planning and housing crisis, which again is my focus here. So we're listening to our customers, our biggest thing, because you're asking for help. Yeah.
That is an important concept there, Jeff, as well. Pirathayini, from your perspective, what are things that you're sort of seeing over the next 6 to 12 months that would help drive goals for a smarter city?
So from my perspective, I'm in academia, so I work with industry partners to identify issues and vulnerabilities in existing space. And the next 6 months, we have smaller projects we have to scale, based on the timeline. So we have deliverables for, designing data processing algorithms that keeps consumer privacy in mind while being able to extract important analytics and trends from data sets, which can be pertaining to the city-based data. And I also know that we have a lot of collaboration with the city itself. York faculty members are collaborating extensively on traffic management, taking data from video cameras and feeds to automate, incident knowledge of incidents and how to predict future events, future traffic patterns, noise pollution in general. So there are very active projects that are happening right now that are sort of short term, and in the long term, we have applied for grants successfully to design like research programs around 1 to 2 to 3 years that focus on developing certain products and prototypes and to show the industry partners what can be the typical scenario of if we have limitations in infrastructure, how can that affect the city, in terms of, if we have too much demands and loads in certain areas, we can model that accurately and, just give prototypes to, our partners to show like the inherent difficulties and how we can mitigate this. So I guess from an academic perspective, we are like trying to bridge the gap between theory and knowledge, because everything is very new and upcoming. And I think this is the right time for us to all collaborate and have a synergy between research, practice, and industry partners. So.
Yeah, and it's funny how you said so many things are new, and you look kind of historically, you go back to around 1970 in Los Angeles. I guess they created the first urban big data project where they were collecting information. I think it was called the cluster analysis, and they were trying to figure some things out. You move forward a little bit to 1994, we have Amsterdam, who they classify as kind of the first true smart city, but what they were really trying to do is they created a virtual digital city, and that was the first online internet community. And they were trying to promote their residents to get involved. So I think things take time, but once they take time, it's like a snowball, and it just runs. I also want to ask, anybody else have any questions, or anybody else have any comments there? Lori.
Okay, I'll throw out a question. The movie's like 40 years old. I'm a Blade Runner fan. Okay. And the thing about Blade Runner, for those that don't know, it was one of the first movies where the future wasn't this shiny brand new thing. It was the old on top of the new. And the old was even probably worse than the new. So like it's really so I just want to comment about the different cities' preparedness to like tackle things that maybe won't go away like easily, like some systems and stuff. And do you find that some of the communities that are expanding and maybe building new, like Vaughan and Oakville and different places, are maybe better positioned than places like Toronto, where they have probably a lot of stuff that would be very hard to replace?
Jeff, do you want to answer this from a planning?
That is a good.
You smiled, so I figure you're a Blade Runner fan too.
I loved that movie. Yeah. I haven't seen they remade it, didn't they?
Yeah, the remake is terrible. Don't bother.
Okay, good. Well, they're great. You just saved me 2 hours of my life. I think, okay, so yes, you're right. And I think the answer is two-part. It's, are we putting leaders in our organizations, whether you're a small community or a city of Toronto, who want to roll up their sleeves and tackle the challenges? And if the answer is yes, which I hope it will become, right? Then it all becomes on how we work. And the way in which we work has to change. We have to be agile. We have to fail fast. We have to try things. We have to be collaborative. We have to reduce the risk. We have to maybe push back on the legal department a bit and say, no, we're going to try this, right? And I think if it's not one answer, but I think if we have to adopt a new mindset, and I can guarantee you that it'll be harder to do it in the city of Toronto than it would be in the city of Vaughan, than it would be in the town of Huntsville, right? It's just the nature and complexity of large organizations. But to me, the answer always comes down to, are we willing to roll up our sleeves and try? And how are we going to work together? Right. And so I don't know if others have another answer, or if that was a good answer, but that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Kitty, did you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, so I haven't seen the movie, so
don't see the remake if you do. Yeah.
I think Jeff is right. Like I think in Vaughan, we started our smart city journey maybe. Well, I was in this role since 4 years ago, but it started even before me a little bit with our previous mayor. So it really did start from the top. And then it's looking at, we did spend some time in strategy development, and now we're in the implementation stage of smart city. But I spend a lot of my time talking to just departments, right? Like understanding what the challenges are, right? I don't say, I'm a smart city expert, because I am not. I don't know every single leading edge technology that's out there, but I know and can understand that departments have pain points and problems. And that's usually where we start to say, what is your pain point? What's taking up all your time? And then you start to have discussion like, can we leverage technologies to solve that? And it's really a snowball effect here, right? You have really the low hanging fruits. There's a lot of ideas that we've tried and failed, and there's a lot of ideas that we tried and succeed and expanded. So it's that willingness mindset that we're going to help you to help improve and solve this problem. What we've learned is that in cities, that because we are so limited in our staff resources, people don't want to do things that are on the side of the desk, right? You want to add another thing that they have to do because for a smart city technology's sake. So we really turned it around to say, let's really dive in and pull up our sleeves to look at, what is it that we want to tackle and solve, and how do we leverage smart city innovation to do that. And sometimes the solution is not tech, right? And I love it when it's maybe it's an infrastructure design or something that's not exactly related to tech, but we usually start there. What is the problem? How can we help? And I spend a lot of my time in my role really connecting our Vaughan departments to the outside world, because sometimes for example, if you're so focused on wastewater and that's your day in, day out, and you're a technical expert, you might not know that, for example, York University might be doing some research and they can help with this particular area. Or in our case, maybe in development planning, we're seeing this because of this massive pressure on, building and growing, and how can we leverage, work with Esri to really help expedite that process as well too. So it's knowing, we always call in our economic development profession that, our connection, our knowledge is really our currency. It's to really bring that knowledge from external to internal as well too, because there is someone out there that, whether it's in our city, whether it's a company, whether it's an academic partner, whether it's utility partners, there's a really big smart city ecosystem that a lot of our internal departments aren't thinking about because they're so focused on the day-to-day. So I think I spend a lot of my time bringing that, connecting the outside to the inside world.
And it's good to be able to connect kind of that knowledge there. Jeff, I think you wanted to make another comment. I see Rakesh has his hand up too.
We're coming to the end of our time here. In the chat, I'm going to put a link because one of the things we often fail to do is to write a sound business case, and in the business case with a tangible return on investment. Because at the end of the day, if we look at this as a business and we're showing cost savings to the business over time, that's also what we need to do. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to some work that the Regional Municipality York had done, and they openly shared around business cases in smart city environments. So have a look.
Hey, thanks. And Rakesh, you had a question. I know you put your hand back down.
Yeah, because we're already out of time. But we do have a challenge. I mean, who was it? Lori brought up a good point. We have a lot of existing, some of it aged infrastructure. We see this in our communication. We're probably behind most of the world now in terms of our communication and logistic structures. It's not because we have ill intent. It's just that we've invested so much way too long ago, and it's very hard to rip and replace. So what I've been seeing in some of the older developed regions of the world, what they're doing is every time something needs to be replaced, they don't replace it with the same, they replace it with what's next. So if you have maintenance equipment, you have 100 trucks, 20 are about to be retired, the next 20 need to be the next generation, something connected, something smart, something leading edge. You're updating your transformers, you're updating your sewage system, you're updating your water treatment system. You need to think, okay, I need to invest a little bit more. That's the other problem, we don't have any money. We need to invest a little bit more into the next connected, not more of the same. My observation, and we're also in the smart space, smart building arena, is that this is where things fall down, is that it usually is 20-30% more expensive to get to that next level of innovation. And Jeff, your business case ROI analysis, that's what we got to look at. But the ROI cannot be within election term. You know,
Yeah.
it can't be within the 4 years that the government is being voted in or voted out or changed or whatever it may be. And that's
Yeah.
part of the problem I have with this system. So, and the other question is, how much should government do? How much should private enterprise do? You know, we're going into a ceramics manufacturing company where we're partnered up with a design company. We're redesigning how they work from bottom to top and then implementing technology. And we could be as fast or take as much time as we bloody want. The government can't do that, right? So my next question is, how much should the government be doing and how much should they be supporting and let private enterprise do? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
That sounds like the topic for the next webinar.
There you go. Would it be the first time, Jeff? Would it be the first time, Jeff?
That's what Rakesh is really good about, that leading into something for the next there. And that's a good question. I don't know whether we leave it or tackle that. Is there any answers?
To me, I mean, you have to, the society we live in is we have a municipal act that defines what a province is and what a municipality is and who does what service, right? And those government entities live within the regulations of those municipal acts. So, you know, it's not the best answer, but that's where the question lies.
You're right, Jeff,
though.
But the act still allows the municipality to outsource. So garbage removal, a lot of it's done by third-party private enterprise. So the framework of the service is such that regardless of where you live, you are granted this level of service as a citizen of the country, right? But who does that service? Now we could debate.
Okay, and with that, thank you very much for joining us today. I do have a video. I think it goes along even with this data co-op that Jeff had sent out, and it kind of puts together what what York Region is doing, and it's really good to be able to connect all of these resources. So I thank Jeff, Kitty, and Pirathayini for sharing your insights and your perspectives. And, you know, as Jeff and I were talking, there's never really a right answer. And as Kitty said, I don't have all the answers. And I think it's because there's always so many more questions to be asked each time you answer something, and you learn something as you go along the way. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. And everybody have a wonderful day. We love to see you at our upcoming peer groups.